So if we look at the US, very strong, very low unemployment, very high employment, very high levels of consumer and business confidence. Obviously, Donald Trump's out there causing mayhem. This story changes day to day. It might have been slightly different yesterday than the day before, given the negotiations that occurred between China and the US. All I will say is that Donald Trump isn't having a trade war with everyone. He started off having the trade war with everyone, then it turned out to be mainly against China. So he's not anti-trade per se. We're a long way from what happened in 1930 when the US hiked tariffs on all imports by 20% and everyone else did the same. We're nowhere near that. At the moment, the average tariff increase in the US is 1.8%, and that's only affecting 12% of US imports. So much smaller than what you saw in 1930, very different to that. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Donald Trump. I've got this little cartoon here, which I kind of like here. Donald Trump thinks he's firing off at his enemies, or US, other companies, other countries, with tariffs, and of course it blows back and hits the US worker. How does it do that? Two ways. One is when you go down to Walmart, this is in the US, don't forget, you go down to Walmart, if you keep raising tariffs, most of the stuff in Walmart is from China, prices will go up 20-odd%, whatever. Secondly, if you're China, you think, well, we don't like America anymore, we're not going to buy Boeing, we'll buy Airbus. So workers in US companies lose their jobs. So at the moment, those costs, the downside from tariffs aren't really that evident because the tariffs haven't gone up much. If the tariff war continued, then it will get a lot more dangerous for President Donald Trump, particularly as he faces re-election in 2020. If he wants to get elected in 2020, re-elected, he probably has to get this issue under control, which brings us to the bottom point there. This was obviously put together before the deal with China last weekend. This commentary around that deal, I think, just highlights the problems we have these days with social media, where you've got to keep saying something or other, and everyone says one thing on Sunday, and then of course by Monday it was a different thing, and then by Tuesday it kept changing. I think what's come out of that deal, and the Chinese yesterday did confirm this, is that they had a deal to hold off raising tariffs any further, at least for the next 90 days while I negotiate. And that is the key element to it, I think. And that, I think, was a move forward. They're talking, they're negotiating. China did make some commitments to the US, which China has affirmed. They've said that they will start working on those commitments. So I think that's the best you can say out of this. You can debate all sorts of things about whether China agreed to eliminate tariffs on US cars or not. I don't know. But I think if we focus at the high level here, there was some progress made in bonus areas on Sunday. And that gives me a little bit of confidence that we are heading towards some sort of solution. Not necessarily by March the 1st next year, which is the end of the 90 days, but I think we will get towards some solution, which gives me confidence regarding global growth and also China and the US through next year. Now, why might the US be putting that pressure on China now? It may be related to this. This, I guess, is a sort of a football showing the importance of various countries and regions in the world economy. And you can see there that the US economy is still the world's biggest economy. This is in US dollar terms. If you get technical and look at purchasing power parity, then China's actually a bit bigger. But in terms of US dollars, the US is the biggest, 24.4% of world GDP. China is 15.4%. Maybe the US is worried that as China gets bigger and bigger, it will become the world's biggest economy. They don't like that idea. They're trying to slow it down. And there's probably an element of that in there as well. But I think ultimately they will have to work together and find a way to do that. Otherwise, you'll end up with some sort of military conflict, which I'm hopeful will be avoided here. Other things to note from that chart there, people sometimes say, well, why don't you talk about India? Well, note that India is about 1/5 the size, or 1/4 the size of China at 3.27% of world GDP. Australia, good news is, does make the chart there, bottom right. We're almost the same size as Russia, out of interest. Well, not quite. But in a big picture sense, if you want to focus on the parts of the world that matter in terms of share markets, you focus on the US, you focus on China, obviously Japan and the Eurozone, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, far more taken together than the UK. So I fail to get too excited about the Brexit debate. I get a good laugh out of it because it is hilarious. There have been so many twists and turns in that one there. But at the great scheme of things, it's academic for us sitting here in Australia. It's of main relevance if you're a UK citizen or you've got money in the UK. Then it's an issue. But in terms of what I reckon is important. It's the US, China, Japan, Eurozone, and obviously Australia, because we live in Australia.